Hi, good morning. It's James here from Horse Race Ratings, and obviously this is the End of Off Racing Podcast Daily Selections. Yesterday was a little bit tough. I thought Miranda was the one horse I think that we kind of missed out on a little bit. I think a slightly stronger ride. I think Miranda possibly could have won, but it was a very, very close finish. And the other two were a bit speculative. I think the selection at Southall was just on the wrong part of the track on the inside, unfortunately coming into the straight. At Southall, you need to be down the middle of the track. It runs quite deep down the far side rail. And then the other selection ran well for a period, but then just obviously tailed off coming into the straight. So on to today. I'm a bit late in getting these out, mainly because some of my selections from the podcast earlier in the week have been non-runners, unfortunately. So I had to kind of review some of the cards again this morning, pick up on a couple of non-runners as well in a couple of the races. So first up, what I'll do is I'll concentrate on Sandown, because that's where we've got obviously the bigger races of the day. And we go to the 225. Now, in this race, I did fancy another horse, but it's now non-running. And I think Metier in here is going to be very, very tough to beat. I did mention Shake 'em Up Harry in the podcast on Wednesday, but I think Metier's got a lot in his favour. Obviously, Galise McCalla, you can't discount getting the £7 weight allowance, but Metier looks like a very, very good horse. And the only other horse I thought that had a chance against Metier was a bigger price, is now not running. So Metier in that race for me, I think the price at 2.4 is actually good value. I've got him priced up at just under 2, so around 1.9. So that's around 10 to 11. So I think Metier's got a very, very strong chance. I wouldn't go steaming in because of the conditions. He has won obviously twice on in tough going, but Sandown can be extremely tough. So don't go steaming into Metier. Just keep it as a normal kind of 1-point bet. But you are getting some decent, what I think is decent value at the moment at around 2.4 on the exchanges. Next up would be the 3 o'clock. Now I've got a couple of selections in here at Sandown. So this is the kind of veterans chase race. The two that I like in here are Cross Park with Harry Skelton on board, and Finger on the Switch with Millie Wonnacott on board. These two actually come out quite strong on the ratings in terms of obviously the ratings performance, particularly Cross Park. Just think the horse has got a serious chance, and across the strike rates, across the ratings, does come out particularly well, particularly the last race rating, where historically there's been a 50% strike rate of winning. And in a race like this, that is by far the biggest winning strike rate. Everything else is around 4%. So it's a very, very big kind of pointed towards Cross Park. Hopefully Skelton gets a good tune out of Cross Park. And again, there's a bit of value in there because I've priced it up at 7s and it's now around 11. So I think that's got a decent chance. And the other one in there, and obviously you could do that winning place because obviously you're going to get the 4 places as well. So on the exchange. The other one that I do like is Finger on the Switch, and that's because that also comes up quite strong on the ratings. Actually, he's coming in at close to bottom weight as well. So with Millie Wonnacott claiming £7, the horse is not going to be carrying a great deal of weight either. So I think, and the fact that Mulholland has been actually in decent form, and Millie Wonnacott has actually written a couple of runners as well. So they're the two that I have against the field in the veterans chase at Sandown. Next up, we'll head over to Lingfield, and I've got one selection in here, and that is Joint Forces. I think, look, it's a pretty competitive race. Let me just bring up the race details now. So that's the 255. It's a small field. I just think Hidden Breeze is a weak favourite. And the one that I would take it on with is Joint Forces. It's got a really good draw, comes up well on the stats. But James Tate has been in very, very good form. He's operating a 66% strike rate in the last 7 days. And with Callum Shepherd on board as well, they're at 50%. So I know that obviously there might not be a great deal of runners in that, but they are in decent form, and I think the favourite is weak. So join forces for me, and I think you are getting a bit of value at the price as well. So again, that would just be a standard kind of bet on join forces. My next selection comes at A, and that's the 345, and that's Jesse Mack in that race. You are going to get a decent price on Jesse Mack. It's around 10s on the exchanges at the moment. A lot of this it comes from a system that I run in the ratings, which is actually a very, very good system. Let me just bring up the race again now. So Jesse Mack, look, it tops my ratings. I've got the horse priced up at 3s, so it's 300% bigger than that at 9s. There is obviously a bit of concern with regards to trainer and jockey form, but across the ratings themselves, the horse actually does come up quite well, and it's actually the only horse to have won on heavy ground. Actually, there is one other runner who has won on heavy ground, but it is 1-for-1 on heavy ground, and it's got a fairly decent record at A as well. It's won twice there. Ran well last time. Now it has obviously gone up in the weights, but I think, and Alexander Thorne did ride that day without claiming. He's now claiming £5. So the horse in effect is only running off 104, so it's gone up £2 for that win, and I think that is going to give Jesse Mack a pretty decent chance each way, particularly in the tough conditions back down in Trip. Because it's won at Ayr on heavy ground over a similar trip back in November last year. So I was in November 2019. So Jesse Mack has a real decent chance. I think the horse is massively overpriced, and hopefully Alexander Thorne can get a good tune out of the horse. The one the main danger would be those Tiger Feet. David Bass riding. Obviously the yard have been in fairly good form this season. But I just think those Tiger Feet's possibly a bit short in the betting. So Jesse Mack for me in the 345. Again, you could do win and place on that, or each way betting if you're using just the normal, obviously betting sites for that selection. And then my final pick comes at Wolverhampton, and it's in the 640, and it's a small field again, but it's Loch Navarre. Just think the horse has got a really good chance, being stepped up in Trip, comes out well on the ratings. Obviously, the main danger would be Napatandi, but I've got 3 of them priced up very, very close. That's Loch Navarre, Bandinelli, and Napatandi. But I just think the value lies with Loch Navarre. I think it has just got a really, really good chance. The horse is progressing. There could be any amount of improvement from Bandinelli. Obviously, Napatanda's carrying a penalty, and that's always quite tough to do. You've got to be a fairly decent horse to kind of withstand that penalty. But Loch Navarre, for me, stepped up in Trip. I just think at the prices, it's too big a price. And let's see if the Haggis charge side from Frankel can actually show that improvement and get the job done today. Obviously, is also getting the fillies allowance as well of £5, so should have a very, very good chance today, and that's Wolverhampton 640. So I've got no real strong bets today. There's no real 3-pointers. It's all just standard bets. And then I've got obviously the ones at Cross Park and Finger on the Switch and Jesse Mack. They're kind of half-point winning places in those races, and that's today's selections. Shame about obviously my main picks actually all being non-runners at Sandown, which is a bit disappointing. But hopefully we can get a couple of winners today and make up for the 3 disappointing runs yesterday. But good luck with your tips and your selections today as well.